So failure is not a word that each of us learned growing up. It's something really positive and we should embrace. And yet we are told as leaders that we need to embrace failure and be able to help people to trust us or to learn from their mistakes. So it's often a pretty difficult paradigm for people to be able to adjust to. One of the things that I think is important about embracing failure as a leader is one, trying to get as clear as you can, especially when you're delegating. I talk to leaders about this a lot, about where there are failure opportunities and where there are not. And so part of what we even think through as we're asking for team members to be a part of different tasks, or we're putting, empowering them to be able to own different tasks, is that something where failure is an option? Now, there are certain things that you really can't fail. You can't miss a deadline. This has to be done. It's got to be accurate. In the HR world, right? Paychecks are going to go out. We don't want to hope it's right. In the way that we're working on different things, obviously in accounting or finance, are very similar. There's so many different projects that I've done in learning and talent that it's going to be presented to a huge group of people, and we're going to roll this thing out. The executive team is going to have their eyes on it. So there's a lot of different pieces and parts that we would say, whoa, failure is not an option for that particular one. Now, my coach would tell me that there's always lessons to learn and that there's always different things, even when we put this hard line in the sand that no, we can't fail. We're going to have different moments where we say, oh, I should have done that different. I wish I would have learned from that. But I think it's important that you're being open and honest with your team about, hey, this is one that we have to get right. And then you have the same conversation with the team member another week or two later, and you say, hey, this one is one that we can figure out a few things along the way. We can make some mistakes. We can learn about some of those things. And I want you to be able to tell me what you're learning and what you're moving forward and what's causing you challenge and what, roadblock you didn't anticipate that hit you square in the nose. So being able to just understand proactively as people are walking through things, where are failures easier to overcome, easier to say, hey, let's learn from that. And where are you going to be more anxious? Where are you going to be more upset? This often tells you how much you should be involved, which is really helpful for you and your employee. The other thing that I think in terms of embracing failure is when you expect it. I had a friend of mine who was talking about some different goals that she's going after. And one of the things that her coach had requested that she do is write down 25 expected failures. And we used to do this in process improvement work, right? We would actually sit down and we would look at failure modes. We would try and anticipate where things would break down. So when we're able to do that as a leader and say, hey, this is something that maybe I'm giving this to somebody and they don't have the skill set, or I expect this, we're not going to get this project right the first time. And then being able to talk to people about, hey, I expect that there's going to be a bunch of different things along the way. Or if you're not and weren't able to plan that much, when a failure hits, if your first question is, what'd you learn? What are you going to do differently? How do we need to fix it? I'm working with a group right now that is their mantra. It's even nerve-wracking because we're not getting all of the pieces perfectly right. We're testing them and we're finding that, oh, people didn't like this or that. And the answer from the leadership team is, what did you learn? What are you doing about it? How are you going to be able to improve it next time? And it is an openness to let's learn and work through this together. And there's nothing really we can't fix. It's kind of that mindset. And so I think in terms of your mantras, your calm, right? The ability to remain calm in these situations. And then the questions that you ask for follow-ups, those patterns are going to start telling people that I can learn here. I can make mistakes here. I can tell people about it, and then we can move on. And that over time is going to build a really strong team who's aware and planful, much more so than somebody who hides things under a rock when they don't want you to know about failures and obstacles. And you'll be able to actually improve your processes significantly over time.